This is the final section of this talk. We're going to discuss GitHub and RStudio just as one example of how you can basically talk to GitHub from your computer. There are a number of ways in which you can pull content from GitHub and push content to it. But now I'm going to choose only one as a motivational example to inspire you to go beyond and to know kind of what's next. There is a lot that you can do, as you already saw in this talk. Even without connecting GitHub with your computer, you can create repositories only to host issues and to coordinate actions across multiple people. But at some point you may want to use the features for which GitHub is most powerful, which is this idea of tracking changes through time, basically in plain text files, and that is the way in which code, for example, is written. So if you write code or you write plain text in any way, you can track how those files that you are editing change through time with GitHub and other tools that connect to it, like RStudio. So I'm going to show you the ideal scenario when everything just works because you already have everything configured. I'm not going to cover configuration because that is that can be pretty painful. Sometimes it's not, many times it's not, but more often than not it is, and you need to do some reading before you can connect to GitHub. So I'm going to give you resources to do all that. So if after this inspirational example you feel that yes, I should do this, particularly I'm interested in connecting RStudio with GitHub, then there are some resources you can use. The book Happy Git with R is really useful, and it has a very detailed description about how to configure things for all different platforms, for Macs, for Windows, for Linux. And then there is these shorter webinars that I also recommend. I also I also recorded a couple of videos about GitHub and RStudio talking about configuration issues. You can search in my R playlist on YouTube just search for GitHub, and there should be probably 2 videos about that. So that's enough talking. Let's go to GitHub and let's create a new repository, which you should be familiar by now. We did it a number of times, but it's here at the clicking on the plus. You give your repo a name, so I'm going to say ABC. I'm not very creative today. If I have previously shown you repository with the same name, let me tell you that I have just removed them and cleaned my GitHub repos. There were a lot of repos called ABC, ABCD, demo, and so on and so forth. So now I clean all that. I can create, and you can never create 2 repositories with the same name. That's exactly what I want to say now. So I create the repo. Actually, I forgot to add a README file to this repository. That's why we are presented with all this text that I don't want to talk about right now. So I'm going to click here on README to basically do what I didn't do before, which is to create that README file. It comes up empty, which is okay for me by now. So I'm going to scroll down and click commit to basically do this special kind of save that GitHub does. So that's all I wanted to do here on GitHub. What I need to do next is to copy a particular address that I will need to provide RStudio with to clone this repository, basically to bring all the contents of this repository back into my computer. And what are those contents? Well, for now, all I have is this README file. So what I want to do is to edit this README file, which I could do it right here, but instead I'm going to do it, I'm going to edit it from my computer. How do I do that? Okay, so we go to the repo and we click here the green button and we copy this link. You can click here to copy this link, or you can just drag and do Ctrl+C, for example. Okay, that's all we need to do. And now we go to RStudio. So I'm going to open any instance of RStudio. It doesn't really matter where you open it, because we are going to just create a new project. We can go in RStudio, there is this project icon here. The first one is new project. And I'm presented with these options. This one is a tricky one. What you need to choose here to connect most easily to GitHub is this third one that is called version control, and choose Git. In the repository URL, I'm going to do Ctrl+V to paste the address that I copied from GitHub. And immediately you see that this field has been automatically populated, because GitHub is clever enough to basically copy to extract this ABZ, the name of the repository, and put it here. I'm pretty happy with where in my computer this repository will be cloned. So where I'm going to save basically this folder that is going to be created for me. So I'm going to just say create project. You will see that this window kind of refreshes, and now at the very top right, instead of seeing whatever was the project, the name of whatever project I was before, I now see the new project that I've just created and just copied from GitHub. And in the Files tab, we can already see the file that we were interested in bringing down to our computer. I'm going to click on it to see its contents, and as you saw before, the same that we saw online is now here. Yeah, that's exactly what we wanted. There's also a couple of other files that I'm not going to talk about. Basically, they just come with this process of creating a repo on RStudio. So what we want to do now is to start editing this file. Maybe to do another heading and some bold text. So whatever, I'm going to do this many times, or I'm going to show you some cool tricks that you can do with an editor, a very powerful editor like RStudio. And that's pretty much it. That's what I want to do. Let's say that I want to create this as bullet points. Okay, that's what I want. Let's say that that's what I want. I'm going to save this file. I could preview what this file is going to look like just by clicking here. And this is what it more or less what it should look like. But I'm not very interested today in showing you what you can do locally. What I'm interested in showing you is that, well, once we do the changes locally, and if we follow the process that I showed you before, where we cloned the repo from GitHub into RStudio while creating an absolutely new project, then you should have this, and if you have everything set up, which I didn't talk about today, you can then basically select all the files that appear in this little tab, and you click here on the commit tab. You need to first kind of check the files that you want to commit. And I'm going to say initial commit. You need to write a little message, explain what you did. That's basically a record for yourself, for your future self, if at some point you need to go back in time and undo something that you did. That's the very cool feature that Git provides you with. And then you do this special save that is called commit. And that's pretty much it. You get some information about what files were created and things that I'm not interested in talking much about. And then we're going to push this little up arrow, green arrow takes stuff from your computer and pushes it up to GitHub. We read a message that says that essentially this translated to English means that my push has been successful. So now if I go to GitHub again, if I refresh this page, what I should see here is the contents that I added locally. So let's do just that. Let's click here to refresh. And here you see that a bunch of files have been added, which are the files that RStudio created for me when I clone this repo. And you can see all the text that I added locally. So now we have this very nice communication. I no longer need to edit stuff. I could, if I wanted, I could edit stuff here, commit on GitHub online, and then go back to my computer and see how I can pull from GitHub and the file that lives locally gets updated. When this combines with collaboration, is very powerful. So now I'm working just by myself, but if you were working with colleagues, everyone would have GitHub as a central repository of what's the real truth of a file, and then everyone works locally, and then when they are ready to basically share their work with the others, they just do this. First they pull stuff from GitHub, and then they update whatever they want to update, and then they push it back again. So, well, with this we have finished covering all the topics I wanted to talk about. Again, this last one, remember, is only to inspire you to go beyond, but certainly, I did not give you all the elements that you would need to connect GitHub and RStudio from scratch. There is a lot of settings that need to be done before you can do that, and I encourage you to read these resources if you need to learn more. With that, thank you very much. Here I leave you with the link to where you can have all the information about all the information about this talk, and also my Twitter handle here.